Greetings, infidels. It's your boy Jordan. And guess what? We are halfway through our fantasy regular season. That's right, halfway. We have 14 regular season weeks. As you might remember, that is an increase from a couple years back since they added a game starting from last year to the real regular season. We added one to ours. So now we have exactly 7 weeks behind us and exactly 7 weeks in front of us until a lucky few, or really a majority of us, even though it might not feel like that, might have the chance at some postseason play. So we got a ways to go to get there, but I think that it's time to not only look at the games from this past week, from week 7, but see where we're at. Where's our seedings versus where we at are on our power rankings. I'll get into more detail. Going to go into our week 8 games, of course. Also have some interesting information about what we're on pace for record-wise in regards to setting records and scoring or lack thereof. Hint, hint. And then also going to have a little fun at the end. Just want to kind of get into some deets and into the weeds on some of our teams and how we're looking compared to the real NFL. And I'll get into that in a little bit as well. But let's go ahead and just start right off. There were no games of the week this week. I know that, we had some people with high hopes of some monster games, but we kind of knew that it was over me, Alex, etc. That had some players Monday night, but we knew that it wasn't going to come down to that. So I just ordered it from in order of the highest scoring winner. And that's the order that will go. So, for the 3rd time in a row, bowling a turkey is Sajid with the top score of the week, 195 points. He is 6-1. He's won $30 off the weekly payouts, so he's already 30% paid back on his buy-in, third of the way there, which is impressive enough. He took it to Jeff, 195 to 126. Seed has sole ownership of the best record in the league at 6-1. Jeff is at 4-3, so not far behind. But the difference really was Joey B. It pains me to say it because he was mine, so was Eckler, and they're both going off. I'm trusting my process. I still stand by the trade, and I have no choice but to, of course. But it's paying off for Sajid right now. He's definitely getting a nice cushion, and it's all relative, right? Sajid, me, Sam, everybody, Gus, everybody wants to be hitting the ground running at the right time, which is around week 14, week 15. Getting a good streak then. We all know that you can't win your fantasy league in the first few weeks, but you can lose it. But at the same time, it does help Sajid knowing that he has a little bit of a cushion over others in regards to seeding, in regards to getting to the playoffs, which is important. He still isn't resting on his laurels. He's making moves, as everybody should be. Don't just assume that because your team's good now, it will be in the future. But it's something to note. So it's cool to see. Worst to first. My boy Sajid getting it done. And Sajid, I know that we both share a birthday. Happy early birthday to you, to us. I hope you have a great day. Both of our days will probably look a little bit different. I'm not as much going to the strip club so much right now. Don't know if that's still you or not, but hey, if you do, have fun. Don't make any fucking Magic Mike trades when you have those Magic Mike balls in your face and everything. I know it's hard to, separate balls from footballs, but, or whatever stripper you're going to see. But anyway, hope you have a great day, man. I definitely plan to do the same as well. And hope everybody has a great Halloween. But we're not done with this video yet. It just got me off on a sidetrack. So, back to it. Manny, next up, a distant second in scoring here. 153 to 131 over Alex. Manny improves to 4-3. Alex falls to 4-3. Alex on a little bit of a skid right now. The difference here was at wide receiver, really. Manny outscored him 53 to 26. Add that together, plus Andrews on Alex's side getting 0 points was a huge letdown. And that pretty much sealed the deal. It was a 20-point game. It didn't need a huge, just over 20-point game. Didn't need a huge margin of error there for that to happen. Next up, Carlos gets his 2nd win of the year. No longer tied with Lewis after losing to him before. He wins 151 to 118. He gets a big win. Hector falls to 4-3. Carlos improves to 2-5. The difference here was Josh Jacobs. Jesus fucking Christ, I did not expect this motherfucker to be a workhorse like he is. 44 points. The rest were really fairly even. So if it wasn't for that outlier, it would have been a very close game. I'd have gone down to the wire, but not here. Puts the foot on the throat. 44 points from Josh Jacobs gets the job done here. Next up, Sam versus me. I knew this was going to be a tough couple weeks, having heavy buys on week 6 and 7 early on. Part of the process I'm trying to trust here. But it was a little bit of a letdown, knowing that I was at one point somewhat close, and some of the people I grabbed off the waiver wire didn't work out as well as others that I was considering, and they did great. So I was seriously, because of the last week, considering picking up and playing McCole Hardman. Wouldn't have made that much of a difference because I would have picked him up over Valdez-Scantling. Would have been nice, but still didn't have the balls to pull it, and I lost. So you live, you learn. But basically the difference here was that Sam just outperformed me at every position by a little bit. I won a couple of, like, I think the kicker and defense by a little bit. It wasn't enough to matter. He basically outscored me by a little bit to a decent amount at every other position, and there you go, 32-point game. Not hard to see how that happens. I fall to 3-4. I'm second in my division. Sam improves to 5-2. He is leading the champs division. Joel, 135 over Lewis, 71.5. Joel improves to 4-3. Lewis falls to 1-6, cannot string it together, and has one of the worst losses that we've had in this league in regards to points scored, only 71.5, and we'll get into this in a bit, but he now has brought his total down. His average per game is below 100. It's bad, folks. Feel for you, Lewis. Shit happens, but he takes the L here. The difference here is really just the fact that Lewis had 3 players with 11 plus, his high score being 20. Joel only had 3 players with less than 11. So you add that together, and it's an ass whooping. So Joel didn't need to score very much, but he did anyway. He scored at least enough to make it a pretty wide margin. Last but not least, Gus gets the win as the lowest scoring winner, 123 to 91. Gus improves to 4-3, staying a game behind and nipping at the heels of Sam. Manny is as well. They're both 4-3. They're tied there. Kyle falls to 1-6. He's having a tough year, and it's rough because his team is not scoring that bad, but just has the record, unfortunately, that goes to show that he's just getting some bad matchups. This would have been the good week for him to play Lewis. That was the only team that he actually outscored. So the difference here really is the running back position. Gus outscored Kyle 27-4, and then outscored him at flex 33-16. There you go. All right, so next what I want to look at is the current seedings, and also look at the current power rankings, aka order of highest scoring teams, because that's what matters. You can't help who scores against you or what they score against you. There's no, quote, real fantasy defense, but points scored matters a lot. So head-to-head does matter as well, so keep in mind that this is current as of halfway through the year, and a lot of non-divisional games, which will be huge for tiebreakers coming up. So keep in mind this is very fluid, and I have not gone and checked to see if there's any of our rules that circumsede any of these, but I believe this is actually correct as of right now. Doesn't really matter, like I said, still fucking early. All right. Tops, no surprise here. Sajid is 1 seed at 6-1. He would be getting the only bye. Sam would be getting the 2 seed at 5-2. He would be playing the 7 seed, which is Hector. 3 seed is Alex. He's 4-3. He would be playing Manny. And then Joel would be 4-3 playing Jeff. So that would be another divisional game there. Alex and Manny would have a huge game. Sam and Hector have some history there as well. I believe those are all but Joel and Jeff, Super Bowl rematches. So, first team out. Remember, the last team in was Hector. First team out is Gus, and then me. He has a 1-game lead plus tiebreaker over me right now. Then Carlos, then Kyle, then Lewis. Bringing up the rear there. All right. Now, it's a different ball game when you start looking at points scored, power rankings. Alex is tops on that right now. He is averaging 153 a game, but Sajid has made up a lot of ground, and it is starting to look a lot different now. Sajid now is not only at second, but he's a very close second. Remember, Alex 153.3, Sajid is 152.7, less than a point away from overtaking Alex per game and points scored. Alex on a little bit of a skid, Sajid on a rise, and 1 game behind, or 1 game ahead for Alex. I'm sorry, 2 games ahead for Sajid over Alex right now. Alex is 4-3. In the power rankings, Alex 1, Sajid 2, Sam is 3, so it's not too different. The top 3 in the seedings also are the top 3 in the power rankings, just a different order. 4th is different. Excuse me. If you remember, I told you Carlos was 10th seed, 2nd worst record in the lead. He is 4th highest scoring team halfway through the year. He has just been unlucky. Watch out for this motherfucker, folks. He has risen up 2 in the power rankings. He is averaging 136.6 a game. So Alex is 153.3, Sajid 152.7, Sam 141.9, and then Carlos 136.6. Okay, Jeff is next at 136 even. Manny is at 131, and 7th, who, if the power rankings were what mattered, not record, if it was by points, Kyle would be 7th and last team in at 130.4 per game. He's had an unlucky year. This past week was, a stinker for him, but he's been scoring a pretty good amount otherwise. After that, Hector, then me at 124.6 for Hector, 122.3 for me. Then we go under 120 from there, the real danger zone. Joel 119, Gus 118.6, Lewis 97.5 points per game, folks. That's where he is at. And when I saw this, it made me wonder where we are at, or if we're on pace for setting any sorts of records. In regards to the high end, we are not anywhere close. If you recall, Alex is 153.3 per game halfway through the year, and that is on a downward trend. See it at 152, so say 153 on average, with both of them going in opposite directions. Even if that were to hold, it's nowhere close to the tops. The current high record, and by the way, the current low record also happened with an asterisk, but the current low record happened in the same year, 2018. This was the year, if you remember, I won the Super Bowl. I have to say that because I very much enjoyed it. But more what stands out than that is that was the year that Gus went undefeated. 13-0 in the regular season and lost in the Super Bowl to me. He was averaging 172.7 a game that year. But that is not even the highest, believe it or not. Manny, that same year, came in 3rd place. He was averaging 174.8, so 175 points per game over the course of an entire fucking year. It was nuts. He was 11-3 that year. His only losses, I believe, 2 losses to Gus in the same division and 1 other loss. It might have been to me. I'm not sure. But I'm only saying that because I think we were in the same division at that point. But I can't be sure about that. But anyway. So we're over 20 points a game away from being on any sort of pace like that. So there would have to be a huge uptick, because remember, you'd have to bring that average up. So you'd have to have probably Alex or Sajid are the only ones within reach, and they'd probably have to score like over 200 a game to even have a chance and do it for a while. So that's unlikely to be broken this year. It did make me look more. How often did the top scoring team actually win the Super Bowl that year? We've been doing this for 12 years. It's the 13th year. So out of 12 years so far, only 2 teams have won the Super Bowl and led the league in scoring that same year. And that is Gus in 2019, so just a couple years ago, and then me in 2016. And then looking at the current low record. Okay, so now, the reason why I brought that up with the current high record and also how many is, don't be discouraged, obviously. I mean, everybody's still going to play to the end. But just because you're not the highest scoring team doesn't mean you don't have a shot at the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, you need to be a higher scoring team. But you, like I said, got to hit the ground running at the right time. And that matters more than anything. So it gives you hope to be in the tops, but it doesn't necessarily dash your hopes if you're not in the top scoring just yet. Especially if you're a team that is just getting unlucky and still has an outside chance, like Carlos, Kyle, scoring well, but just having some bad luck. If they start picking up luck, all of a sudden you got a problem on your hands when you want to play them. Even if they don't make the playoffs, they would still spoil your season potentially. So, got to watch out. The current low record we actually are on pace for, or I said not we, I don't want to take ownership of this one, but Lewis is on pace for. The current low record technically is our good friend Daryl. Back in 2010, the first ever year, he averaged 101.2 points per game. Now, caveat, that first year we had 14 teams. Naturally speaking, that means there's less players available per team, so the lows are going to be lower. The scoring was more spread out, is my point. So that is a little bit of a skewed number. So I did look after that. We had 12 teams from then on. So in 12-team leagues, it actually was 2018 again. Lewis had the lowest, which is 105.4. On our 12-team years, he was 1-12 that year. Daryl was 3-10 the year that he had the lowest. Right now, Lewis is on pace for 1-13, which would be a record for the worst record in the history of our league. He has 1-12. We've never had a winless, and we won't, because he does have at least one win now. But he is not going to, if he doesn't get another win for the rest of the year, 1-13 is technically worse than 1-12. So that's what he's on pace for. So hope you can pick it up, brother, because your team is, man, I can smell it from here. Moving on, let's look at week 8. And just taking it in order here. Right now, it is me versus Carlos. Big game. Carlos can even our records. He is favored by 7. I am missing one player. That's my defense right now. Sam plays Hector, 5-2. Sam versus Hector, 4-3. We have no divisional games this week, by the way. Hector right now is favored by 5. Manny at 4-3 is actually favored over Sajid by 4. Sajid is 6-1. Manny's 4-3. We got Gus and Lewis. They both are missing players. Lewis is missing 2 players. Gus is missing 1, but still Gus is favored by 31 right now, so still a big favorite. Kyle is 1-6. He faces Joel at 4-3. Joel is favored by 3 points. Favored to be a close game there. And last but not least, my boy Alex, 4-3 versus Jeff, who is also 4-3. Alex is favored by 25 points right now as it stands. So, as promised, the last part that I wanted to do here was, I thought halfway through the year it'd be kind of cool to compare all of our fantasy teams to current NFL teams. So, by all means, chime in. Let me know your thoughts if you think there's a better comparison. I tried to pick teams that have the same or similar record in the NFL to here, and then tried to find reasons as to why I chose the most likely pairing of those teams. All right, so I'm going to start just in order of the week 8 games and just go down and give my reasoning here. So I compare myself to the 49ers. Reason being, we're both 3-4 and made some moves, made a big trade. The trades are helping. I mean, my players have scored points, but they haven't paid off in the form of wins right now, kind of like the 49ers with CMC, even though it's very early on that. But also with the moves that they had at quarterback with Jimmy G and Trey Lance, having to have the backup come back in. Remember, I had Joey B and I had Trey Lance. Trey Lance got injured. Joey B came in. I traded him away, making moves. So I thought that was a pretty close comparison. Again, feel free to chime in if you think you have other ideas. Carlos, I think he's like the Jags. I was actually surprised looking at the Jags record. They're 2-5, just like Carlos is, but they're playing a lot better than their record. I mean, you know, we would expect almost, I mean, it's funny, but it's for real. You almost expect Carlos to be 2-5. You almost expect the Jaguars to be 2-5. But they're looking a lot better than what their record shows. The Jags look better. Carlos's team looks better. He's not really Carlos. He's more like Car Unlucky. But he's been winning, you know, getting points. And he has 3 strong running backs. I mean, he has Chubb, Jacobs, and Mixon. You don't want to face that team if they get on a roll at the right time. So I thought the Jags was a good comparison there. Sam, I compare you to the Chiefs, buddy. KC 5-2, you're 5-2, tried and true. The Chiefs may not have made the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl last year like you did, but still back at the top where you belong with good players to boot. Kupp and Diggs, what else can you say, right? Moving up, Hector. I compare Hector to the Titans. Both have 4 wins. The Titans are 4-2 with the bye. Hector is 4-3. Really the only reasoning that I have here is that really the records are better than I thought. Hector normally has a strong team, but he almost starts a little slow. He plays against some harder teams, even though he has higher scores. This year's been a little bit different, and it's kind of like the same with the Titans. This year, there's not been a lot of scoring, not a lot of offense. He is only 8th in the power rankings, but he has a 4-3 record to boot, and same with the Titans. All right, Titans actually have a winning record, which surprised me. They don't really remind me of a team that should have a winning record. Manny, this one was kind of low-hanging fruit in a way. I guess not really, but the Bengals. He has Jamar Chase. That's they're both 4-3. That's easy. But they were in the mix last year, in the mix this year. Strong team, scoring a lot of points. Manny's 6th right now in the power rankings, up there 4-3 in the champ division. That's not an easy division at all. Trust me, I used to be in it. There's a reason why it's used to be, because I flunked out of it. It's not easy at all. So I thought that he was there with the Bengals. Great team, turning it on at the right time, and the trajectory is up. Next up, Sajid. Now, the easy one I thought would have been the Bills, because they both are 6-1, or they might be 5-1 actually, I think, because of the bye. But I thought the Eagles, even though the Eagles are 6-0, I think that it's more or less reflective of Sajid's team, because just like the Eagles, Sajid has been great at being a GM and a coach for his team, making moves, scoring a lot of points, looking impressive while doing it, has depth, has good starters. I would say depth at the starting position, not necessarily depth to the team. He knows that he has some things there that he has to hope and pray for, and that's kind of like the Eagles. They got to hope that this keeps riding. They are 1 or 2 injuries away where they could have a crumbling end of their year, so they have to be careful. So kind of the same thing there. Gus, I compared to the Ravens. He's got Swift, ETN, Pittman. He's got a lot of promising players, just like the Ravens. Started out hot, a little bit of a cooling off effect, not scoring a whole lot of points recently, not looking that great doing it, got some injuries. Kind of saw the comparison there, both 4-3. Lewis, sorry to say it, buddy, I had to compare you to the Texans. I would have compared you to the Panthers, because I think the Panthers are truly the worst team, but they laid a whooping on the Bucs. The Texans, they have a tie that is kind of a win, kind of like you. You had that tie that ended up being a win. But they actually have the real win, but also just kind of missing talent, missing scoring, just a lot of things just slipping through the cracks. Got some promising players, but just not delivering as much. The Texans got Pierce, you got Herbert, but just not enough to carry the team overall. Kyle, sorry buddy, I compared you to Detroit, but in a good way. The reason being is you almost have matching records. You're 1-6, they're 1-5, but you're scoring a lot of points, and up until the last couple weeks, Detroit was too. I don't know if they've cooled off, but I still think they have the potential to put a lot of points on the board, and so does Kyle. Like I said, Kyle would be the 7th team, the last team in, if it were the power rankings that mattered. But nonetheless, it doesn't, so Detroit is kind of where you're at, buddy. Joel, I got you with the Chargers, man. 4-3, both are 4-3. You just feel like that. The team is good. You got some promise there, but it could be better. And I think that that too. Kind of hanging by the skin of your teeth in a few games. Could have won on a couple others if you made some different moves. Same thing with the Chargers, but trajectory is up. Alex, the real low-hanging fruit here. Dolphins. That's just easy. You're both 4-3. You got a lot of exciting, promising players, and when everybody is playing together and playing hot, it's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, not me so much watching, you and your Dolphins do awesome while me and my Bucks suck ass. But nonetheless, I thought the close comparison for you was easily the Dolphins. You got an exciting team. You got depth at You got stars at quarterback, running back, wide receiver. You really got it all put together there. But you got more losses than you probably should. Some because of injury, some because of just luck. And that's just kind of how the ball bounces. Next up, or last up, I should say, last but not least, Jeff. Division leading Jeff. Surprise. Much like the division leading Seahawks. Both at 4-3, leading their divisions, and nobody would have expected it. He's got CMC, Walker, Mike. He's had some tough decisions regarding Tom Brady and Geno, but he's got Geno just like the Seahawks do. And even though the veteran, Tom Brady for him, and Russell Wilson are underperforming in other places, he still has some promise at the position, so I thought that the Seahawks were appropriate there. Let me know your thoughts. I know this video ran long, but fuck it. You have the choice not to watch it if you don't want to. If you made it this far, cool, but either way, again, happy birthday, Sajid. Happy birthday to us, and happy Halloween to you and your families. Have a safe one out there, and peace punch, Captain Crunch.